All right, what is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. I am currently on my route. I'm actually finishing up my route for my part-time job, and I figured I'd bring you guys along so we could talk about what it's like working while in flight school. Maybe you could take some value from it as well, but my situation is that I'm starting over essentially. I left what I had going on for flight school, so I wanted to just open up about that and try not to overshare. I'm a big yapper, so I'm gonna try my best not to overshare. So before I explain what I'm doing right now, I just want to explain where I'm coming from and maybe you can relate to. So when I got out of college with a psychology degree. I knew I wasn't gonna use my psychology degree. I pretty much just got it to get it, and I graduated right when COVID started. So when COVID started, everything was already kind of crazy, but I was getting into personal training and online personal training, and I was kind of doing my thing. And I had a buddy, he had a personal training business going on, and it was doing so well that he ended up buying a few gyms. So as I was doing my thing, he kind of reached out and he offered me a position. I was actually working at a PPE factory pretty much. So I was working a factory line. When he offered me that, I was like, bro, 100%. So we got into it, and I just started training, training his clients and helping out in his gyms. He offered me to be a partner at one of the gym locations, and I had the time of my life. I had the time of my life personal training and running that gym. I was doing very well, and this was in COVID too, so I was very proud of how well we were doing. However, not to get too much into the details of it, but just some things weren't adding up and lining up, and we just didn't see eye to eye anymore. So I decided it would be best if I just left the business. He paid out my percentage and I ended up leaving, but I had just gotten married at this point. So the only thing I really had on the table was my dad's business. Now, I grew up working with my dad every single summer, and my dad has had a residential painting company for a very long time. That's something that was always there, and I've always had like a feeling that I could help it grow, but I never really got into it. And then once I left the personal training world, it was really the only option I had, and I had bills to pay. My wife at the time wasn't working, so I kind of just called my dad and I was like, Dad, listen, do you want to try to grow this business? I think we can get into the commercial space. He was kind of hesitant at first, and then eventually he saw the vision. And bro, long story short, one day I could talk more about this too, but the business blew up. I had to put a lot of time in, and I pretty much expanded the commercial side of it, and it was a fun time, bro. It was a fun time, working with my dad. It was very stressful as well. For anyone who works in family business, they know how stressful it could be. And we put a lot of time in it, me more on the closing deals and getting these bigger contracts, and my dad, managing everything, kind of like being on site and making sure the project is moving smoothly. We grew the business to the point where it was doing over $1 million in sales. So it was cool. I also learned a lot more, I had an idea. Just because you sold a certain amount doesn't mean you made a certain amount. So it was just, cool learning and actually being able to run a business the way that I envisioned. So very, very cool. But I realized it's just not something I want to do for the rest of my life. I didn't really enjoy the conditions of working in the freezing cold and doing construction, because I was there when the building was getting built. There was no heaters. I just knew I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life. That's when my father-in-law, he is a retired airline pilot, he just suggested it. He's like, hey, do you want to go on a discovery flight and see if you like flying? And I was like, yeah, I'm down. Why not? And after my first flight, I was hooked, and I knew I wanted to do that. That's when I started my flight training. I was balancing the business with flight training, being a full-time kind of owner-operator and trying to get as much flying done as possible, and it wasn't working. That's when I made the commitment to move to Florida for the better weather too, because you can fly more often, but also because I kind of felt like I needed a fresh start. And my wife was down, and we decided to pack up and move to Florida. But I had the business, to worry about as well. So I decided, I told my dad, hey, I'm gonna be taking a very mean cut in my salary. you know, and I'll help with the admin work and things like that. I wanted to make sure everything was still good running back in New Jersey, so I decided to take a cut, and this cut is supplementing my income to this day. So very thankful for it. And now I'll explain to you what it's like trying to work while flight training. My personal opinion is that there's no way you can do full-time work and full-time flight training. That's just my opinion. I tried really hard. I'm a firm believer that you can either work full-time and do flight training part-time, or you can do flight training full-time and work part-time. So right now what I'm doing is, honestly, bro, what I'm doing right now is a little bit of both, but I would say it's closer to full-time flight training and part-time working. That's just my opinion. Maybe some people can do it. So like I said, I still have that little bit of income coming through the painting business. I felt like I needed to do a little bit more. So I started with the rideshare apps, and if you ever done that, you see that you end up making about $10 an hour. That wasn't something I was enjoying. It was way too much wear and tear on my car. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do this anymore. I need to find something else. Here in South Florida, I have a couple of friends that moved from New Jersey as well, but they all live in Miami. I live a little bit north. I had a buddy in the watch business. He saw that I could maybe be a good fit for his company, and he invited me to work for him, and I started working for him full time. So it was pretty much a 9 to 5, but it was all the way in Miami, so my commute added like an extra, I want to say 2 hours and a half because of the traffic on 95, and I was flight training at the same time. So I had a great time. The guys were awesome, and I was selling watches. It was something that I've never done before, and I started doing it, and I was building my like network, and it was very cool. But it got to a point that I realized, like, hey, I want to be a pilot. I moved to Florida to be a pilot, and even though this is cool and the income is good, it's kind of messing up my progress. I just remember like a specific flight that after I landed, I was like, bro, I am not at the quality or at the level that I should be by now. I need to focus. I decided to step away from it. After that, I went into the service industry. I have no history in the service industry at all. The only job I was able to get was as a bar back. And let me tell you, I didn't even know what a bar back was. Shout out to all the bar backs out there. Anytime I go out now and I see a bar back working, I'm gonna stop them just to be like, yo, I see you, I appreciate you. Because they do everything, All right, I just did my last drop off. The bartenders, they're there, you know, shaking the little cups and making their drinks. And I wasn't really big into the bar scene, all that stuff, so I didn't really understand that dynamic. It was just the first opportunity that opened up for me. It was like a crazy introduction to the world of like bars. I was doing 40 hours in 3 days, and I was always the last one to leave. It was just me and the manager who was closing. I had to stay to clean everything and whatnot, but that was a little bit more doable. The only thing I didn't enjoy was that the bar that I worked at was like that bar on the strip that would be the last one open. It messed me up sleep-wise, you know, like I couldn't really function the next day. Sometimes for flights, I was just kind of out of it. It was definitely doable. It was 100% doable. It was just difficult because of the time that bar operated. But I was only working 3 days, so I didn't really consider it full-time. I was doing every week, I was doing 35 to 40 hours. I would say I had 1 day to recover and then 3 days to worry about flight school. Way more doable. I just had to find a better place to work. I was still holding down the business, and then eventually I found this job, which I'm doing now, and I love it. I'm working for a very sweet older couple. They own a dry cleaning company. We just started getting to know each other, and then they essentially said like, hey, we need you for these 2 days, but whenever you want to come in to get the hours that you need, you can come in. And they were so cool about it, man. And they told me, they're like, hey, prioritize your flight training. So that ended up being perfect for me. That's what I'm doing right now. And they're amazing. They've been awesome to me. This to me is like the ideal situation. It was so stressful when I was running my painting business at the beginning of my marriage, when I was basically unemployed. But to this day, I'm collecting the fruits. Like recently, I just closed the biggest contract that I have ever closed. And it was simply because a project manager from a previous building that we did called me to give him a price. It was the biggest bid that I ever built out and the biggest number that I ever wrote out. So when we got it, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. It was cool that it's not that I didn't have to try, because I obviously tried very hard. I was doing all the work back in the day, but it's still affecting me and blessing me to this day. So I'm very thankful for that. You know, it's crazy. It's you really got to trust in God if you're going to do it the way I did, to see something that works out. And I obviously know I'm blessed because I have the supplemental income coming from my painting business. I'm doing this part-time, and on top of it all, my wife is working full-time remote. And to speak about the support system, I think that's like the biggest thing when it comes to flight training, especially if you're going to take a little hit financially. My wife is so supportive, and moving to Florida was not easy for me, and it definitely was not easy for her. This is why I always plan loosely, because we can make our plans, but God has the final say. So, you know, we're having our baby soon. My wife does not want to work forever, and I do not want my wife to work forever. I really, really don't. That's one of the beautiful things about becoming a pilot, is that you can kind of give that type of life to your family. So she knows that, and in a way, she's kind of like investing in our future and in me. And I'm very thankful for my wife, man. And honestly, bro, like, if you have a woman in your life, because this is women attitude, this isn't girl stuff. She is 100% committed to this project that we have together. Man, it's just like, it's cool to have a unit like that, you know. It's cool to have somebody who believes in you and who is invested in you and believes that, you know, you're gonna make it happen. So my responsibility is to make it happen, you know. And if you're a guy out there that you have a girl that is trusting you to make it happen, bro, take that serious and make it happen, you know. If it takes a while, it takes a while, but just make sure you're doing the right things to make it happen, because come on, bro, as a man, you owe that to your woman. She's by your side, she's sticking through it, you know. You owe it to her. So I know I owe it to my girl, and I appreciate my girl so much. I can't wait till the day comes where she, you know, retires. But that day is gonna come, and it's gonna be a really, really good day. When it comes to working while in flight school, either work full-time and flight train part-time, do your flight training full-time and work part-time, and have a really, really good support system. If you can find the best combination of those, you'll be in a good spot. And my bro, eventually we're gonna get paid, bro. We're putting in all this work to get paid. And you kind of just have to remind yourself, like, hey, this is part of the process. You know, like, you gotta be humble. And pilots, from my experience, I've met a lot of cool pilots and a lot of humble pilots, but a lot of pilots are cocky. And a lot of student pilots are cocky. Like, bro, you're a student pilot, relax, you know? It's good just to always have your ego on check and submit, you know, and be humble and serve. Because as a pilot, that's what you're doing at the end of the day too. You're serving. You're getting someone or something from point A to point B. So that's always the mentality that you gotta keep. When you're working in the service industry and when you're delivering people's dry cleaning, trust me, it's good for the ego, for sure. All right, check. Yeah. Welcome to the best day of the week. It's Monday, it's a leg day, and we are on the top set of deadlifts. Did one of my working sets, 3 plates and a 10 for deadlifts, and I did 8 reps. With deadlifts, I try to be really careful, bro, because I always want to do deadlifts, but whenever I try to advance too fast, I always end up getting a little pop in my lower back, and I can't walk for like 2 days. So I'm tired of that happening to me. I'm going up slowly. I feel really good at 3 plates and a 10. That's 335. And yeah, so I'm gonna go for 8 reps again. Strip it down to 2 plates and just try to bang out 15.
You got 10. You can consider stripping to 2 plates your little break, and you send it for your drop set. This will be my top set, straight into my drop set. Yeah. I got 10 reps to beat or to match. And then we go from 2 plates in at 25 to just 2 plates. So. Stars. It's a good sign. Pretty much just cardio with 1 plate aside. Still on fire. I'm at my laying hamstring curls. I did my first top set of 130 for 8 reps. Now I'm gonna send it again at 130. I'm gonna aim for 8 reps and then drop down to 70 and try to go to like 12 reps. Bro, it's not like the craziest weight, you know? I always try to keep in mind that I'm 175 pounds. So I can't, like, my body can only do so much. Once I start blasting like Trent or something like that, that'd be really cool. But I'm pushing it, bro. Like, it's a weight that's very heavy for me. My sweat doesn't lie. Like, I know when I'm done, I'm actually done, you know? So, same goes to you. Like, I'm just putting out my numbers out there. If you can't reach that, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Do something that you're working. And if it's too easy for you, do more, you know? That's why I track everything, because I can just look in here, see what I did last week, and then I could try to beat it or I could try to match it. I never, ever, ever will allow myself to lose to it, though. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a mentality you gotta like take on. I really just been prioritizing going extremely hard when it's time to live, you know? Yeah, bro. Just gotta go hard. Let's go. Okay. Now is when it's gonna hurt a little bit. That's exactly why I wrote it down, because I was trying to beat 12 reps at 70 or match it, and I ended up beating it. Instead of 12, I did 15. So next week I got a new challenge. Doing some calves, and we're gonna burn out with these. I'm trying to go as hard as possible, bro. A lot of people have fast calves, including me. So do 20 reps, nice and slow. Bro, this hairline right now is crazy. First thing I'm doing when I get my bread up is going to Turkey.